Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to a coach's collection, but this is done in a different way because, as you can see, I am here on SAS DOK checking out this deck that I opened last night in Sealed. I went 3-0 with it, and I just wanted to go over it because it's a really neat deck, and I wanted to touch on a topic that is going to somewhat be a theme this week. So, first off, let's take a look at this deck, and we're going to kind of go. Normally, we start off in the first one and work our way over. This week, I'm going to start with Untamed and work my way across. So, actually, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to start with Unfathomable because that's kind of how I started every game, was dropping some Unfathomable nonsense. So first off, this deck has a Cowpay in it, which is an absolutely fantastic card. It says your opponent cannot play more than one card of each type each turn. Amazing turn one play, whether you're going first or second. If you're going first, it instantly makes your opponent, maybe they had a bunch of creatures, they can no longer play a bunch of creatures unless they have action removal. It also then provides the interesting aspect that if your opponent did go first and they played a creature, maybe they were looking to go into another house and go for the cycle route. Or maybe they were doing it to utilize, you never know. But if they were going to cycle, then guess what? They cannot cycle now necessarily if they have a bunch of creatures or multiples of any card type. And now they must call an inefficient turn to deal with Cowpay. So I really like that to start with. Furthermore, I managed to get out twice Tomwa and Cowpay out at the same time, which is really nice because I think both of those creatures, or these creatures, are like witches, and you kind of need to take care of them, and Tomwa was not taken care of. And it really allowed some interesting things here. This deck also has Abysmal Zealot just for some fun shenanigans. It also has 2 Flamegale Enforcers for a little Ember control. Same with Wakola. Figurific Rod, which is amazing with Tomwa, because then it lets you get the 2 creature factor going, which you can't do any other way. Oh, I guess this as well, Guiltspine Netcaster. I never got this card out, oddly enough. But you could potentially have 3 card draw with Tomwa using this. And then it has Wakola for a little more Ember control, Bubbles for a little control slash... What am I thinking here? Control slash disruption. So I do like Bubbles in this meta because you have the fact that you can throw a creature with upgrades back on its controller's deck, which is a really nice way. Anything that has an activated ability also is great because they not only have to draw it again, then play it again before they can utilize it. And then, of course, if there is something that has a lot of Ember on it, and maybe something that prevents, I think Ludo's in this set. Ludo saying, you know, destroyed, you lose the Ember. This prevents that happening. You still get the Ember. So a nice versatile card. I think this is a meat and potatoes card within the Unfathomable realm in terms of it's doing a lot for seemingly little. What else? Under Pressure is really good as well. Sorry, I forgot that this creature cannot ready. A great way to get more value out of your Tomwa. Now, here's where things get interesting. This deck has a Youngest Bear, which is really nice considering you have Tomwa next door and even Urian the Circumspect over here. Urian is particularly saucy in this deck because there are 2 copies of Lair of the Lake, meaning it'll have a 5 armor. So that exists, which is really nice. And then you have a Dredging Druid. So this is a really great card because you have Deepwater Gruins, you have Witch of the Dawns, you have the aforementioned Unfathomable creatures, as well as your Sanctum lineup, Lair of the Lakes, and Urian Circumspect. These are ways you can kind of set that up. So I really appreciate this card for that reason. Way of the Pixie, Reap, gain 1. I mean, this is just great for Youngest Bear, Cowpay. Put it on the Urian the Circumspect. You're just creating a greater burst potential. It's phenomenal. I absolutely love it. Then we have Instrument of Silence. This creature gains fight and gain 1. So many targets for this. I mean, you can just throw it on anything that you really think is big and wants to survive, or you can get really saucy with it and throw it on this Hookmaster. So it's never taking damage. Your opponent loses 2 Ember and you are gaining 1. So that's just a really nice combo right there. Going through this list further, we have obviously Deepwater Gruin for a little bit of burst. You have Creed of Nature, which is putting in work. Genetic Drift and Growth Surge are fantastic. A lot of amazing targets to actually do that. Obviously, Growth Surge into Genetic Drift is what you want. So you put counters on 3 creatures, then you Genetic Drift something and add more counters to those creatures. On a Spore Gorger, if you need a little bit more board removal, can be really great. Spore Gorger combos with KeyFrog, but this also has infighting, so creature placement is really important in this. But due to the double Larry of the Lake, you can actually get away with doing a one-sided infighting due to the fact that that armor soak, so you're going to have a +4 armor in all your creatures, can really put in amazing work. So I really like Larry of the Lake for the way it protects your creatures in this with infighting and the way Spore Gorger can go off. That pretty much sums up. It has creature. This deck has Creed of Nature as well. Literally no purpose other than one time you want to give a creature skirmish pretty much for a fight. I don't see any other reason for doing it. It doesn't really have that great of a effect. It just says destroy Creed of Nature. If you do, choose a creature for the remainder turn. This creature gains skirmish and assault X, where X is its power. Just when you got a big problem you need to deal with, an elusive creature to deal with, things like that. It just is situational when you need it. There's no real crazy good target. Because even Hookmaster, you may not want that because of the assault X, and it gets X. Yeah, gains skirmish and assault X. I mean, you may end up killing the creature, so Hookmaster doesn't survive, but I mean, it is a possibility for Hookmaster to live. All right, moving on to Sanctum. So I got in 2 games, or actually a couple games, where I was actually playing Unfathomable and Untamed. That's where I just rolled. And then I held up this huge Sanctum hand because I was able to just get a nice board presence between Unfathomable and Untamed due to the 20 creature count in this deck. And there being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 creatures on Unfathomable, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 creatures in Untamed. It just created a really strong board presence, so I didn't need to call Sanctum right away. Utilize my board, save those Sanctum cards, and with things like Tomo of the Glow, I'm still drawing cards, so it was really nice in that regards. Also, I went up against a lot of Final Analysis decks, which kind of played into my hand of wanting to save up Sanctum turns or even my Unfathomable turns. It was fantastic. One thing also which was really interesting is I had 2 of my 3 games. My opponent had Operative Espeon, which when you raise the tide allows you to use a friendly creature. Well, that worked out really well for me because when I have Larry of the Lakes and I'm wanting to take the tide into Urium Circumspect, which I never got to use, unfortunately enough. And then there's lots of other things in here where the tide works into my favor, especially Cowpays. My favorite thing was I positioned Youngest Bear next to Tomwa, so I would literally just go raise the tide, use Youngest Bear like on a Sanctum turn, and then get to Reap with Youngest Bear, then Reap with Cowpay, draw some cards. It was kind of gross. It really allowed for some shenanigans to go. So this deck actually benefited from Operative Espeon with raising the tide. Sometimes I wonder if you should be playing that card. Like for example, if I had Urium out, I would not play that card because that's giving me the opportunity to not be in Sanctum and call and get that Ember Burst. If you notice your opponent has any way of daisy chaining creatures, for example, for reaping or getting things like that, you should not play that card. I think that card is a possible discard depending on your matchup. So please keep that in mind with it because I think it is too easily played for what it does and may actually harm you more than help you. This deck had a Hadros Wall, which was amazing. Each friendly flying creature gets 2 power. I mean, Tomwas, Cowpays, Urians, all things I want to. Like, I would sacrifice Staunch Knight's bonus power to have that on something else with more fun shenanigans, we'll say. Like I said, Double Larry the Lake was great. Redhanded Registry is just a nice card to have out there. If your opponent has a Science Officer King-Can, it can give you opportunities to actually use this in your favor. So that's really cool. Then double taxing journey. Yeah, this card did work. I mean, great board presence. I was able, because this is a 20 creature deck, there are instances where I have at least 2 creatures side by side, if not 3 of the same house. So you're capturing 3 at a time. Between the 2 of them, you're capturing 6 Ember, gaining 2. So good. And then shifting battlefield as well. Really nice with the Hadros Wall to be able to move something to a flank and boost its power. So let's say you drop a Urian. Let's say you had Tomwa out earlier, Cowpay, something like that, and it was in the center, and you can move it to the end that way. It also sets up the possibility for a Growth Surge next turn, so you have the creature you want to get more power counters on the end, plus Hadros Wall. Pretty disgusting. With there being 2, 4, 5 creatures in here, I would save up the charge, and the charge is great. I actually was able to win 1 game when I was dead to rights because I had charge in hand on 5 Ember with 2 creatures from here, and KeyFrog with Hadros Wall at 4 power. So therefore, I was able to pop the key charge by playing charge. Oh crap! I actually may have cheated because it deals 2 damage to an enemy creature. Oh, yikes! That's good to note. So we'll have to correct that. I just realized this. So you can't deal it to your own creatures. So there that is. Yeah, there we are. Anyways, so Honor or Glory is really good. This card I almost exclusively use for flank creatures, just because of the Hadros Wall, and also I generally had a wide board, so deal 3 damage to each creature not on a flank was a thing. So there we go. And what was the last one here? Yeah, that was everything. And obviously, Larry of the Lakes were really good. This card, having both of these really incentivized me to take the tide and have my opponent take it back. And then especially Urian with that was fantastic. So to finish off this deck, I mean, it's good. Like, you see all the things I'm talking about here. But there's something wrong with SAS because this is a 58 SAS deck. And I'm guessing you folks did not foresee that or think of that looking at this, because, I mean, why would you? It just doesn't make sense. So yeah, I think Dark Tidings SAS is exceptionally flawed because of the base arc. So when you see the base arc, that number may not be accurate because Nathan has gone on hiatus. We're not seeing updates. We're not seeing any really strong tournament play to showcase how Dark Tidings is a lot of the way. So please don't write off your Dark Tidings deck. You can look at the scores of Ember Control, your expected Ember, all that stuff that you normally go for, go off that and go from there. Don't just go off of the main score at the end. I think there is an issue with SAS at the moment, but it is a tool that still has lots of great things that you can utilize for your KeyForge plays and whatnot, and analyzing your decks. And I think you can't overlook it for that reason. But do not look at that overall SAS score as a means for your decks. You need to learn how to go through the rest of it. And with that being said, we are on Help from Future Self this week doing an episode about SAS and how to utilize this tool, because it can be misused by newer players. It can be even misused by seasoned players if you're coming to rely on it too much. But there is a lot of really amazing things within this site beyond that final number score there that may not quite tell the tale of your deck. So just keep that in mind, and be sure to tune in to Help from Future Self this Thursday and hear what me and Sydney have to say about this. So as always, folks, may your Ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.